Hey everybody, how you doing? So if you're hearing an echo, I think we were having a little technical difficulties there, and also just disclaimer. I know we all mean well, but Eric is Keith Mason.
Mason. I said
Yeah,
Morgan. Keith
so
Mason. That's right. You
Keith,
got it.
so if you're watching, I just want you to know, hey, we didn't forget your name, brother, because you are an amazing brother. I just want you to know that.
It is
And
Mason.
to anyone that's listening to us, any of my friends in Chicago and Texas and Dallas, and any of my friends who I've talked with in Memphis, and anyone all about. Thank you guys for tuning in with us tonight. We have some amazing guests. I have three people that I truly know. They are some amazing men in their own right. They are doing some amazing things, and I want to just give them a couple of minutes to, tell us who they are and what they do. And we'll start with the youngest to the eldest. But with no without further ado, we'll start with Lonnell and then Representative Love, and then we'll let Brother Howard kind of take us home with just telling us who you are and what you do.
Sure, Ron. Thank you for the invitation to come on to Experiencing Mental Health with you all. Thank you, Eric and Des, for that invitation. My name is Lannell Matthews Jr. I'm the Juvenile Court Clerk for Davidson County. I've been in government for over 13 years now, a former council member, representing District 1 for 8 years, and also worked as the Director of the Mayor's Office of Neighborhoods and Community Engagement under Mayor Berry and Mayor Briley. And so I wear a couple of different hats in the city in terms of my work in government. I've also have a background in youth development, 15-year background in youth development at the YMCA, where I served as District Executive Director of Youth Outreach. I co-chair the My Brother's Keeper Nashville work here, and that's a local affiliate of the national initiative that comes out of the Obama Foundation that works on achievement for boys and young men of color. And I recently have gone into media entrepreneurship. And so I podcast as well on a podcast network, co-own a podcast network called Great Convo Media. And Experience Mental Health is one of our partners. So glad to have y'all on that journey with us too. Look forward to the conversation tonight.
Good evening. I'm Harold Love Jr., State Representative for House District number 58, first elected in 2012, and certainly glad to be here on this conversation. Thank you for the invitation to be here. Also, I'm in my 21st year of pastoring. I'm the pastor of Lee Chapel, African Methodist Episcopal Church in North Nashville. So my experience, of course, in this field ranges from making policy around mental health and, of course, engaging in it in a practical sense as a pastor of a Black church in North Nashville. Very excited also to have this conversation. Lonnell and I have talked many years about how we could do things to help get our young African American men to the place where they do indeed get to experience good mental health. So I'm looking forward to the conversation. So again, thank you, Brother Ron and Brother Eric and Brother Perry. Also look forward to a conversation with Brother Gentry tonight also. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. And my name is Howard Gentry, and lifelong resident of Nashville, Tennessee. Currently, the criminal court clerk here in Nashville, formerly vice mayor of Nashville, formerly councilman at large, formerly a lot of things. I've been around here a long time, and I used to be athletics director at TSU, a banker at Citizens Bank, and had many other positions. But tonight, we're going to be talking about mental health, not just about others, but also ourselves. And hopefully our transparency will be very helpful to many of you, because no matter how we look, and no matter how you perceive us to be, we all have mental stress and challenges that cause each and every one of us to need help sometimes. Being the criminal court clerk, and also having worked as the founding chair of the Homelessness Commission and very involved in homelessness, I have been exposed to mental health issues on both fronts, both in the criminal justice system and also with people who are struggling, not just out on the streets, but the poor and just people who have monumental issues going on in their lives who just, it's a miracle how they even manage to live every day. So we'll talk about some of those things too, and just happy to be a part.
Well, thank you guys so much for being here. This is really an honor to have you all on with us today. This conversation, we're looking so forward to. We're gonna just dive kind of right in. And I'll start with you, Howard. I want to just ask you a question, when you think mental health, and you all three can kind of marinate on this, when you think mental health, what comes to mind? When you hear the word mental health, what comes to mind?
Well, what comes to mind, of course, is one's mental stability and one's the health of the mind. But reality is the mental health is just like your personal health. It is a challenge to an individual based on ailing issues that take place in their life. When I think of mental health, I think of the ability to handle pressure, the ability to handle a non-balanced life and life experience and pressure on one's mind and the ability to process it all in a normal way. And so with mental health, I don't always think of it as being a negative. There can be positive mental health also.
Oh, thank you so much. That is a question I really would like for us all to kind of like flesh out. So with you, Lonnell, when you hear the word mental health, like what comes to mind and what does it make you think about?
Sure. So some of the things that come to mind when I hear mental health, of course, are trauma, how we respond to trauma mentally, and how that affects or turns into our actions after trauma. I think of adverse childhood experiences, just given the space that I work in, and how those adverse childhood experiences can be a precursor or determinant for what type of adults we become. I also think about I think Clerk Gentry said something that was really important, and that's the word process. How we tend to process different situations that we find ourselves in, or different relationships that we have with people, and all of those things come to mind when I think about mental health.
And Brother Love, when you hear that word, because we all have our own different experiences and what have you, but for some people it means one thing, and then for others it means something else. But when you hear the word mental health, what comes to mind?
Yeah, I want to go back to a little bit of what Clerk Gentry talked about the whole piece of having good mental health. And when you talk to health professionals about physical health, they talk about the fact that it's not just the absence of illness, but also the presence of wellness. And so for me, when I think about mental health, I think about the fact that people need to not only have the absence of those pressures in life that would cause them to give up when they don't have all the answers to all the questions, but to have those things in their life that allow them to help process and to help deal with the detours and the roadblocks and the potholes on this journey of life. Because if you don't have the presence of those things in your life, then you will subject yourself to thinking that there is no answer left. And then you start to spiral down into a dark place where it's hard to pull you out of. So for me, when I think about mental health, I think about, again, not just the absence of those negative things, but also the presence of those things that will help you cope and to process and to help find those answers to those questions in life.
Wow, thank you guys. I mean, all of that was truly beautiful. When I think about that word mental health, I really think about, how we all have all been brought up. When we were brought up, that was something that for me, being the fifth of 10 boys, I never heard that word in my house. I never heard the word mental health. I heard the word mental illness or what have you. But I knew without a doubt that there was some people in our house, my brothers, we all were suffering from something because we had some different behavioral issues. And with that being so, in today's young people that we're dealing with, but young and old alike, what do you guys, and I'll start with you, Brother Love. What do you guys think is happening right now with some of the things that we see as far as behavior when we talk about not just young people, but Black men, some that are, what do you think they're dealing with that they didn't deal with before that you think is associated with mental health?
I'm looking here and realizing that your three panelists are all junior, right? Howard Gentry Jr., Harold Love Jr., and Lannell Matthews Jr. And just on the surface, what that indicates is that we all had a male figure in the house. We all had someone who modeled for us how we should grow up and be men, how we should deal with the pressures of life. And so I think a lot of our young men don't either have a male figure in the life, in the house, or in their immediate vicinity, whether it be an uncle or a neighbor that can guide them along these paths. And as a result, they don't have that contact to go to. And so as a result of that, they end up looking for role models. And when they can't find those role models, they think that they don't have value and worth. Then they go and find role models that take them down the wrong path of life. And they either end up in a situation where they end up in Brother Matthews' office as a juvenile, or end up in Brother Gentry's office as an adult. And so much of what we're talking about here is how do we provide for our young men and young ladies also those models that would inform them that they are beautifully and wonderfully made, and that they can achieve anything they set their mind to, but they just need to find someone to look to so they can model after that.
Wow, amazing. So, Brother Lonnell, would you mind, diving into that same question and expounding what do you think and what do you see when you look at some of the behaviors, especially coming from a juvenile court perspective?
Not at all. I was hoping that I got to chime in on this, actually. There's a lot of unresolved trauma that Black men go through. You first have communal trauma. As Black Americans, we have a rich history of trauma that we've endured in this country that has gone unresolved. And so that has affected the way that our families are structured, some of the trauma that we experience within our own households growing up, and that we continue to pass down through generations. Some of the trauma that we pass on to our children, or as Brother Representative Love said, the absence of some of those figures passes on or adds to that trauma. And so, we also have this lack of capacity in systems that are there to help really address that unresolved trauma. I saw it this past week. We had the young lady, the nurse, Caitlin Kaufman, that was killed on I-440. The man that was arrested had a long history of mental health issues, and they were recognized when he came in contact with juvenile court. We have the records in my office. The media has actually done a good job of trying to expose the fact that he had those issues at a young age and they went unresolved. We really didn't have effective systems, even though they knew that he had mental health issues. There wasn't effective programs that he was exposed to that prevented him from getting into the type of situation that he is now involved in Ms. Kaufman's untimely murder. And so we have to do better at creating better systems. We have to break the stigma around mental health so that people seek help and become vulnerable enough to seek out systems that will help them. And we have to make sure that the access is there and that the real help, true resolution is there for people that need it.
Wow, thank you guys. So Brother Howard, I want to ask you this question and get your thought, kind of bring all of that together. So when we see someone that is dealing with mental health, do you think the reason they don't get the help that they need, do you think their social economic background has a lot to do with it?
Their social economic background has almost everything to do with it.
Amen.
The fact is that our system of government, and I think even our culture, does not value enough or prioritize enough people with mental issues. I think our system does not, I think our system actually promotes it, helps to promote it. We don't have, I'm using the word systems, and Brother Matthews was talking about systems in place. The problem is that there are a lot of systems in place, but those systems that people have to go to are disconnected. They're not even in place to help them. It's just an outlet. The internet, the groups that are there for people who are having mental issues to become a part of, that don't help to improve their circumstances, but actually help to make it worse, I'm really trying to, I'm trying to be nice here, but I'm not that kind of guy. We devalue the mentally ill. We treat them as lepers. We use the criminal justice system as housing for them, and we cage them, and we shun them. We treat them differently, even in our own families. We call them names, crazy and out of their minds and what have you. And we do not provide them with the proper structure, the proper love, the proper health care, the proper management of their conditions. And then when they do go off to certain structures, there are people there that don't understand their culture and don't really know how to deal with them. So a lot of people, when you don't understand another person's actions or another person's ways, that you move away from them, you shun them, you treat them differently. And unfortunately, we have a society that is very good at that.
One of the things that I want us to be thinking about, that's why we have kind of launched this the last 4 months. We really want to let people know that there's not just help on the way, there's help out there. And we want to make absolutely sure, especially in the African American community, we want to help them attain the access. And so Eric is going to provide some things there toward the end, where I know that a lot of people didn't know that he has a list of about 25 Black male counselors right here in Nashville, professionals that can provide some of the services. Because what I've found with a lot of the people who I know that's dealing with mental health, I've found that they are intimidated, afraid, to tell someone that they feel like they're having a mental breakdown or a meltdown, so to speak, or don't understand what the anxiety or the angst that they're dealing with. And so we want to break that stigma. We are breaking that stigma, and we want to make sure that people know and understand. That's why we're having amazing people like you guys on here. So brother Love, Representative Love, I want to ask you this, you know, in your opinion, as an elected official, you know, what are some of the things as a representative are you guys doing to advocate for the mentally ill?
Well, let me go back to part of what Brother Gentry spoke about, the fact that we don't value the mentally challenged, and we don't value proper mental health. And we use this phrase that the budget, of course, is a moral document because it tells us what we value. When you look at the millions of dollars and tens of millions of dollars spent on physical ailments as compared to that of providing, again, mental health and support, I think there is a woeful lack in that. Let me also make this connection, if I can, to our educational system, because as Brother Matthews has made reference to ACEs, these adverse childhood experiences, there needs to be an evaluation also of how we discipline children who come to school having experienced this trauma. And maybe the teacher is not trained to understand or recognize it. And so the teacher's focus is on, do you have your pencil and paper? Instead of the fact that you may have experienced some trauma on the way to school. You may have experienced it in the house. And so there has to be an evaluation when it comes to, from a policy perspective, to say, how are we at state government going to have a real conversation about mitigating the effects of adverse child experiences, even to the point, again, of education, so that our school system responds a different way when it comes to discipline, and then talk about our school system when it comes to issues of poverty for children and our free lunch programs. And if children have a school debt on their lunch, rather lunch debt at the school, that they aren't shamed and aren't made to feel less than because they couldn't afford the lunch at the school. All these things play into the child's well-being, because we're talking about building strong brains and helping children develop. It's at this critical stage we must do this, because otherwise we're going to be trying to repair men instead of building boys or young men. And this is where I think we have to have the conversation about, how does ACEs play, again, into education? How does it play into our social services? How does it play into the funding of our schools? Again, not just in the classroom, but also the supplies for the classes and the training for the teachers. So all this, I think, is where we need to have the conversation. And at the level we are at state government, I don't think we're putting enough money into it. Well, I know we're not, because it's not what's on the top of the radar for our state government level officials.
You know, that's amazing that you say that, because I think I may have heard or read that we, you know, had a pretty big cut either right before or during Governor Lee's coming in toward our mental health system here in the state of Tennessee. And with that in mind, I want us to just be thinking about, what can we do? So Lonnell, I want you to think about that. What can we do as individuals and as people who are in our leadership position to affect mental health in our community? Like, what can we do? Like, what can Lonnell, what can Brother Love, and what can Brother Howard, what can you do to affect the mental health issues that we're having in our communities that I think is running rampant?
Yeah, so Representative Love brought up a couple things that I feel very passionate about. I worked on the passage committee that were working in concert with MNPS to change the school discipline, the student handbook and school discipline in our schools. I sat on the steering committee and selection committee for the restorative justice diversion program in juvenile court, and selected the Rafa Institute to lead that initiative for juvenile court. I'm advocating right now with Judge Sheila Calloway, my partner over there at juvenile court, to try to get a new facility, not only because our staff and the young people that are coming in contact really deserve a better facility, but because we don't want the facility to look institutionalized. When they come to juvenile court, people should be coming to a place that they see as caring, that they could get good outcomes, familiar outcomes to come out of there. And they should see it as a place, not as a detention center or a jail, but as a place that's really trying to get rehabilitation and better outcomes for families. And that facility that we currently are housed in, it doesn't provide any of that. But on a larger level, I have to do a better job at being helpful at destigmatizing mental health. I have to be vulnerable myself in talking about, my issues that I have with mental health. And I have to normalize the fact that everyone struggles with mental health in some form or fashion. My personal story is that, my brother was shot and killed in 2006. And a year later, I was running for Metro Council and won my council seat. And I never really grieved fully his death. I went through a short period where I was deeply depressed, but I kind of went into this very busy engagement with community and just my life in general. And it was one thing that I realized during COVID, being quarantined, being away from people, not being able to socialize like I normally have. I'm not at community events all the time. I'm not, running 1,000 miles per minute. It made me slow down, and it made me realize, hey, I have some unresolved depression that I haven't dealt with, and I need to find a therapist to help me through some of these things. And I've actually wrote, we had My Brother's Keeper steering committee meeting a couple weeks ago, and I asked everybody, I said, what's one thing you want to, what's one thing that you want to receive during this holiday season? And everyone kind of went, and they said, well, what about you? And I said, you know what? I need a therapist. I've been searching for a therapist, and I'm glad you mentioned that Brother Capar has this list, because I think the process of even seeking and finding help is a difficult one. I have pretty good health insurance. My insurance provider provided me with a list, and every number I called on that list leads to a dead end. Either the number's not good anymore, the person that I'm calling, they're not at that particular provider anymore. So I'm thinking I'm calling one person, and they try to hook me up with a separate person that I haven't done any research on. I don't feel any sort of reference to. And it's just a difficult process. Like you said, if people are going through worse issues than I feel I have, they may not want to engage with that process. They may disengage very quickly, and we have to make that a normal thing that's inviting to people to engage with.
Brother Love and Brother Howard, can you guys address that as well? Like, what are some of the things that you have done and or do to address your mental health? And then, because some of our guests, by hearing what Lonnell just shared, have experienced that. And I'm sure you guys have experienced it. But Brother Howard, if you can just share with us, because I know you so well, and I know some of the stories that you have told me. Can you share with us some of the things where you experienced and you knew exactly what it was, and you knew that identifying it as mental health and did something about it? Can you share with us what that was, and if you don't mind?
Yeah, I can. I was trying to compact all that into 2 minutes while Brother Matthews was talking. Again, you did say I was the oldest, so I probably had some longer things. But what I'd like to do, and it might take an extra minute, is talk about what I didn't do first.
Okay.
And if you look at, people don't know my life. They look at me and they see whatever they perceive. And the fact is that Brother Love and I both know this. I grew up as a kid who both my great grandfathers were slave owners. So on both sides of my family, and my mom and my dad. So you can understand where I'm starting here. Then I grew up through the civil rights movement, and my nickname in the community, the Black community, was White Boy. That was a struggle for me because I had curly hair. And when I was growing up, you know, everybody had a name. If you look like cricket, you call cricket. If you look like, you know, a worm, you call a worm. I mean, it's what we do, and it's nothing personal. But for me, it was a struggle. And then growing up through the civil rights movement, I was mistreated, and I saw mistreatment, and so that was a struggle that never got attended. And I'm going to move fast on here. Integrating Little League Baseball with Walter Overton and a couple other people, just being in that environment and being mistreated and being the only one, again, would cause some damage. Growing up playing football, my dad being a football coach and not being able to be at the games on Friday when I played, and not being able to be at my games every Friday when I was captain of the Pearl football team and we won the Clinic Bowl. I didn't hate him for it. I mean, he was coaching and athletics, he had a job to do, but just not of trying to process that and making that okay. Making that okay when it really, it bothered me. And just continuing to grow and going through a divorce and having issues in your life. And even right now, having double knee surgery 2 years ago and having a problem behind it and almost not coming out of the hospital, then losing my mother tomorrow will be the anniversary of her death, and going through COVID and still struggling with COVID. That's a lot. Being the first African-American elected in every office I've held, and trying to do it in a way that I'm not embarrassing my community, and trying to take care of my race and my people, but also having to take care of the entire city and balancing that. It's a lot. And I finally got to a point in my life where I needed help. And the first thing I did, and nothing against Brother Love, but I reached out to religious counselors, and they just weren't capable. They did a good job. They helped me on my spiritual side, but they couldn't bring me to where I needed to be. And then going to a counselor that didn't look like me and didn't quite understand what I was going through, but doing the best they could. But finally, finding somebody who actually understood it, who actually has been through it, and has been able to walk me through all of these issues, the ones that I never talked about. And I call that the monster inside of me, because it can come out sometime. And then being able to also help me to process all these things and what I'm going through now. I can talk about it now. I can talk to you about it publicly, and I'm getting help today, and I'm not embarrassed about it. I used to be. I'm not ashamed of it, and I tell any and everybody I know that you've got to get a hold of it, or it's going to damage you in a way that will cause you to hurt other people.
You know, thank you so much, you guys. And Brother Love, that brought us to this great topic that I really want to talk about, because a lot of time, and being in the field that I've been in for over the last 30 some years, being a minister and all of that, people always, want to tell you got to separate church and state. You can't be preaching in here, Mr. Ron. I always tell them this, and I know this is how you live, but you have to do what you need to do in order to do your job. I am that I am, and I do what I am. So I guess I'm just, I am. In other words, but I understand what Brother Howard just said, because some kids, they just don't want to hear you preaching. They want to hear some real stuff from a real person who've had some real experiences. So as a pastor who get these types of questions and have these people to come to your office, and you can tell them all the great things that without a doubt what the Lord Jesus can do for us. What are some of the ways that you're able to help people navigate those things as a pastor? And then when do you say, you know what, I've done what I believe I've been called to do, and now it's time for me to turn it on to Eric the counselor, so to speak. and make absolutely sure that they get that professional help that they need.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Ron. Let me reference a incident where Jesus is pressed by several people around him, and those familiar with the story is about the woman with the issue of blood who comes up, and then Jesus asks the question, "Who touched me?" And the disciples say, "Well, no, there's a lot of folks around you touching you, and everybody's touching." He said, "No, somebody pulled some virtue or some righteousness out of me." And that's when the conversation goes on with the woman who touched the hem of his garment. I use that example with people a lot of times because it reminds people who are engaged in helping other people, or who are the person keeping your family together. Maybe you are the matriarch or you're the patriarch. Maybe you're the child who is helping your parents with your other siblings, and you're helping keep the family together. What happens is every time you are in the help mode, somebody's pulling virtue out of you. Every time that you are giving to somebody, you are releasing some righteousness and some goodness and some help to them. The mistake we oftentimes make is we don't heed the words of Jesus to the disciples when he said to them one day, "You all go over to the other side of the river and you get some rest." He said, "Because the next day I need you to do some work, and you're no good to me if you haven't rested the night before." And so for me, what I've learned to do is to make sure that even as busy as I am with the church and the legislature, I make sure that I get some rest to allow my righteousness or virtue or help or whatever you want to call it to be recharged. Otherwise, you're no good. And this is oftentimes what we see when people snap on somebody because they've reached the edge of their virtue. They have none left. They've given all they can, and you come up asking a simple question and they lash out. And it's not because your question was so deep or so thought-provoking, but it's because they have no more inside of them, right? And so I encourage people that when you reach that point where you feel so much coming out of you, it's okay to get away. It's okay to say you can't do it. It's okay to say no. It's okay to decline a Zoom meeting. It's okay to, if you got to go to the meeting, don't share your screen. It's you know what I'm saying? It's okay for you to be sitting there as you are allowing yourself to be restored. And you also got to surround yourself with those who will pour back into you, because oftentimes we surround ourselves with people who just pull from us and don't pour back into us. They don't allow ourselves to be restored and to be repaired. And to your point, when I get to the place where I can give a person a good direction, but I know that their situation is deeper than my particular content knowledge, I do say you need to seek professional help. You need to talk to someone who can delve a lot deeper into that. But more than that, you need to also talk to somebody whose main job is address these issues and again, providing you the resource that I can't provide. Mine may be simply to allow you to express your concern, express your situation, and now we'll find out if what I'm talking about to you is sufficient or if you need to go get deeper help. And I think that's the thing we've been saying here the whole night is about honesty with yourself. Because for a long time, since it's the confession period, for a long time, I felt like I couldn't say no because I was Harold Love Jr. And everybody told me about how much my father did for them, and they expected the same thing from me. And so I would go literally from meeting to meeting to meeting. I never shall forget, I was assigned to be on a task force. I think it was by Mayor Berry to deal with some stuff with transportation. I literally am in the meeting because Clerk Wynn and Mayor Purcell were chairing. I'm in the meeting sleep because I refused to say no to the invitation to serve on this task force and that task force because I felt like I was obligated to be on every task force that everybody invited me to, because if I didn't, I wasn't doing my job. But what I found out was showing up worn out did not serve anybody, especially myself. And so I had to allow myself to make room for someone else to serve so that I could be restored, so that I could pay attention, so that at the previous two task force, I might actually have some energy and be able to pour back into them. So key to it is me learning how to say no and understand that no is also an answer. And people will find someone else to do it if you don't do it in a certain space of capacity.
Wow, that all three amazing answers. I want to share this with you guys. There's a little book. If you want to read something, it's about an 80-page little book. It's called Go for No. Yes is the destination, but no is how you get there.
Wow.
Think about that. Go for no. Yes is the destination, but no is how you get there. I had to learn that the hard way, but I'm so glad that I learned it, because self-care is some of the best care, or the best care that you can give, because I think that's the only way you can return care, through self-care. So great answers, great conversation, you guys. I want to share a couple of things. There's a book Charlemagne the God also recommended for people to read on mental health. It's called The Unapologetic Guide to Black Mental Health: Navigating a Unique System, Learn the Tools for Emotional Wellness, and Get the Help You Deserve. You know, and see, there's a lot of people right now that are talking about it. And so I want us to just kind of right now, we're going to just kind of flesh out. We only got a few more minutes, but want to flesh out, you know, mental health, because, you know, right now, mental health is a big conversation across the country. We're hearing it on CNN and MSNBC, and people are talking about it. But what I want to do more than anything is I want to be not only the talkers, I want to be the doers of the work, because the harvest is plentiful, as we know, Reverend Love, but the labors are few. So I want to make sure that those of us who are in this few part of the laborship now, to talk about what does it mean to us when we talk about helping the people that we know need mental health. I'll give you an example. My example is, so the young people that I've worked with who are involved with gangs and violence, and they would always say to me, I didn't have a choice. And I would not get mad at them about that, but I would say, let's examine if you had a choice or not. And so after the examination, they realized you always have a choice. So what are we doing as individuals or as leaders, more so as leaders, to help our community make better choices when it comes to mental health for themselves, for their family, and for our community at large? Anybody can start us off and take that.
Well, Ron, I'm going to go a little deeper. I don't accept the fact that everybody has a choice. I accept the fact that there is a choice there for everybody. But I don't accept, and this is not to argue, this is just where I'm going. A person living under the bridge on Jefferson Street on a cold winter night, if there is a blanket sitting across the street, just on the street, that belongs to somebody else, they might go get that blanket and cover up, and that choice that they made might cause them to be able to live another day. Where I'm going with this is it's still wrong. They stole it. But as we deal with those people whose choices are life and death, whose choices are, do I eat or do I starve, or do my children eat or starve? We have to deal with those people based on their circumstances. And so where I'm going here is not necessarily the answer to your question, but in the criminal justice system, there are choices made for them that put them in a position to not have the opportunity to make those good choices and good decisions because of the circumstances that they are placed in, that they shouldn't be placed in because of their mental condition. And so this is awful deep dive, and it might not be as deep as you want it to go today, but just based on that topic alone, I challenge it. I accept it for me. I accept it for the rest of us because we do have choices. But I challenge it with those whose choices we have taken away from them.
Yes.
Because we choose to treat that mentally ill person like they're a criminal and like they're less than, instead of getting them the help that they need.
Wow. Thank you. Wow. That's pretty deep. Any of you guys got any comment that y'all want to share in that? If not, I want to share another little thing that Charlemagne the God was speaking the other day about mental health. And one of the things he shared was one of the rappers in Atlanta said, if all of us do a little, none of us have to do a lot. I forgot the brother that shared that. He's out of Atlanta, but just think about it. If all of us do a little, none of us have to do a lot. I have this theory it's always is, if I got to raise $28,000, all I need is 28 people. That means those 28 people don't have to give me 28,000. They just got to give me 1,000 apiece. And so I always believe that, you know, a little goes a long way. But what has happened to us as a community, we kind of seem to say it's not my problem. And so therefore it gets kind of kicked, as the politicians say, the can down the road. Well, we as Black men, I don't think we're not gonna kick the can down the road anymore, because I truly believe that we have people who are doing amazing things, and we're about to get close here. And what I want to do is let everybody take about 2 minutes and share with us in those 2 minutes, so we wouldn't run out of time. You know, just some closing thoughts.
If I could, Brother Ron, I want to just briefly jump back to the question you asked previously and try to get my 2 minutes in here also. I think we got to start making policy changes, and this, I'm speaking to myself also, but also at the federal level and at the city level, specifically when it comes to insurance coverage, to make sure that we have enough mental health professionals that can be on a person's insurance, just as much as we make sure that it's covered for physical ailments, so that there's not this stigma attached to having to go outside to someone outside of your provider network. Also, we need to look at the possibility of utilizing telehealth for mental health coverage, because this will allow someone who may still be dealing with not feeling comfortable going into the office where the counselor is, but would be okay at least having a conversation over the computer to allow them to have that initial conversation and then maybe go into the office. So I think we need to look at ways to use telehealth to discuss mental health in a positive manner. Also looking to make sure that our insurance coverages cover everybody, because Clerk Matthews has insurance coverage, but then we need to make sure that TennCare is covering all this, because if the Medicaid insurance we have for the state of Tennessee is not covering mental health providers, then what we're talking about is those who are on that other rung economically may not have the access and resources to get the proper mental health counseling they need. So that's one thing I'm going to look at, and I would encourage us also to support that. I would say also that for those who are listening, this needs to be a topic of conversation you have with your elected officials. Ask them about supporting and making sure that mental health is covered for all insurance carriers, to make sure that persons, again, who are covered by 10, and it may be, but I just want to make sure that this is the case, and that the experience that Brother Matthews had with calling providers and the numbers are all disconnected or going to someone else isn't the case we have, because we know that for other doctors, this probably is not the case.
That's great. Go ahead, Lonnell.
Yeah, Ron, if I could just chime in real quick. Killer Mike was the artist out of Atlanta that Charlemagne was talking about.
Yeah.
And, you know, to your last question, I think we all as society, we have to stop being a little selfish. I try to live by the philosophy of you are either building or you're breaking down. You know, you're a constructionist or you're a destructionist. And you know, when it comes to making mental health a priority, we have to do just that. We have to make it a priority, and we can't try to hold it up against competing issues. In government, we do this a lot, where you know, we use the word priority, and it's usually the top 3, and the others we get to if we can. But every priority is a priority, and we have to all dig in. We have to come together and we have to address everyone if we want our community to be the best that it can be. I may not be the mental health expert, but I need Eric, the counselor, to take the lead and the charge, and I'm going to be there to support him. And the things that I feel like I am an expert at, then he could come and support me. But they all have to get accomplished if we want our community to be where we want it to be at the end of the day. And that's one thing that I get from that quote you gave. If everybody does a little, we won't have to do a lot. Everybody just do their part, but make it all a priority. Don't put one thing above another if it has to be corrected to improve our community.
Wow. Go ahead, Brother Howard.
I'm just gonna speak to the mental health of African Americans. The disparity between African Americans and white Americans as it relates to having mental health handled or having care and no care is just amazing. And the groups that we're seeing that are suffering from mental health issues untreated more than anybody else is the poor, the incarcerated, the homeless. In our society, African Americans make up less than 20%, I think, of the entire population, but we make up 50% of the jail population. We make up 40% of the homeless population. We make up even more percent of the uninsured population. So we all need to do our parts, but we also need to fight the system that continues to perpetuate the disparities that are there, because that's where we will find the answers to a lot of our mental health issues within our city, within our nation.
Wow. So y'all, we are right at the end of our show. And I just want to say, this has been an amazing conversation. So if any of you guys who are listening, Eric is going to give you guys some information here in a minute, but I want to close by saying, you know, as a man thinketh he is, we must do something about our cognitive ways of being. That is what's going to change the way we will be. So Eric, I'm gonna turn that back over to you, and you go ahead on and close us out. Brother Howard, yeah. Brother Love, Brother Lonnell, God bless you guys. Thank y'all so much. Go for it, Eric.
Yeah, I just want to thank you guys for being a part of this panel tonight. It's really good for me to sit back and listen to all of these stories. And as a counselor, that's what I find myself doing the most anyways, is listening. And what I was able to hear was the common thread that us as Black men, even though our stories are different and we all have different walks of life, we're all connected through this common thread of we're all experiencing mental health to some degree on some level. And the more we talk about it, I really like how Clerk Gentry was just open. He's like, I'm not going to be ashamed or afraid. I'm empowered now. The work Lonnell's doing with MBK and Rep Love, you know, you're advocating for us on the state level. That's what this is about, guys. And the stigma that we don't care about mental health is it has to be crushed. We're doing all of this talking, and as it was encouraged tonight, for us to not only have these conversations in this type of environment on this platform, but we need to be having these conversations in our everyday circles with the people who we care about in life. One thing that Clerk Matthews said was that when he was talking about his story, he was saying how difficult it was for him to find a therapist. And that's something that I hear often. I really do. I have people contacting me through social media. They may even contact me. They may just call me and say, I'm looking for a counselor, but I don't even know where to start. And I understand that because I've been there as well. I do want to give a few resources for those of you who may be looking for a counselor. There are some, I'll start with some local things. First, I want to tell you guys about this mental health assessment that you can take. We have this mental health assessment that we have in partnership with one of our partners, Mental Health of America, where you can just take this free mental health assessment. You just click the link. It's provided in the section on our YouTube channel where you can, or the comment section is right there. Just click the link. And as I mentioned, this is not a diagnosis. It's very important to know that if you take this link, it does not mean that you are diagnosing yourself with whatever it comes up with. All it is a tool to help you see whether or not seeing a counselor may be something that you need to do. So we want to encourage you to take that link. We also have the Mental Health Cooperative here in Nashville. And in many cities, there's some type of mental health co-op where they offer free counseling services for families within that county. You can go to mhc-tn.org. If you're in Davidson County or Davidson County resident, you can find a counselor there. Another very popular tool that many people use is a tool called psychologytoday.com. I like to describe it as like a LinkedIn for mental health professionals. You go on there, you can see, put in your city, and you can put in, you want a Black male therapist, a Black woman, just type that in, type the city that you're in, and it's going to give you a list of individuals that you can contact. This is what I always encourage people to do who are looking for a counselor. Let's say you go to psychologytoday.com. You pick out 2 or 3 therapists that you may want to begin work with, and you call each one of them and you kind of interview them. Tell them about some of the things that you're dealing with and just ask them how would they help you address those issues. Whoever you feel the most comfortable with, I would encourage you to go ahead and schedule that first appointment. Go in, be vulnerable. There's nothing that a counselor can help you with if you don't share with them, right? But we also know that everybody's not going to be a good fit. My story is I was looking for a Black male therapist. I found one. He wasn't the right fit for me, but that doesn't mean it's time to give up, right? You may run into a situation where the first person may not be the person for you, but that's not an indication that it's not for you. It's not time for you to give up. So utilize those resources. Another good tool is community groups on Facebook. When I get new clients, I always ask, how did you hear about me? Many times they say, well, I heard about you in X, Y, and Z group on Facebook. And so if you're looking for a therapist, maybe just ask the question, hey, who were the good therapists at? Who can I talk to? And that may be a good resource for you as you are out here trying to find a therapist. Again, guys, we really appreciate you joining us tonight for this conversation. We could talk all night about this. That's not necessarily what this was about, but this was about showing the listeners and the viewing audience that everyday people, no matter what level they may have ascended to, we are all dealing with mental health. It's, again, to some degree, and not doing something about it is not going to be what's best for you. This is where we're going to end our broadcast for tonight. We want to thank you guys all again for tuning in with us, no matter where you are in the world. We hope you've learned something. We really do. We hope that you've been able to take something that you heard and apply it to your own life to inspire you to take action to improve your own mental health. That's going to be it for us tonight. Make it a great night, folks.
Thank you guys, man.